did you actually meet her in person? Because you're both in the UK, right? You're both in
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I was a member of an online discussion group about Tanith Lee. And somebody who is also a member of that group, I can't remember who it was, mentioned that she was going to be a special guest at a Blake 7 convention. And this was in, I've written it down here, 2003. So it's a bit over 20 years ago now. And when I saw that she was on the guest list, I thought, I've got to go. This could be my chance of actually meeting my writing goddess. I've got to go and see if I can see her. So I headed off down to Kent, and I went to this convention. And yes, and she was there, and she and John Kane were there, and they just, they just looked so amazing. They were such, beautiful, stylish, interesting looking people. I'd always wondered if maybe Tanith, because some of Tanith's female characters are very cool and reserved, and I had this I was sort of slightly apprehensive, thinking that maybe Tanith herself was like that. But she was just immediately such a warm and approachable and friendly and kind person. And although, when I first met her, I was sort of blushing and gibbering and didn't know what to say, like, a teenager meeting their pop star idol for the first time. She was so sweet and kind and generous and modest and not at all, sort of superior in any way. She was just such a lovely person. That we became friends, really, and luckily that was the beginning of a relationship, in terms of I kept in touch with them, and I sent Tanith some of my work, and then we met a few more times, and eventually I went and stayed with Tanith and John down in their house near Hastings a couple of times, and she was just always so really thoroughly encouraging and supportive of my own creative practice as well. So that was, something I will always treasure in my life, that happened.
That's wonderful. I feel real strongly about helping other writers. It's I think that's just the best part, is like when you can create these relationships with people. I think we forget that they're real people sometimes.
And just, in terms of, time I spent with Tanith and John, I vividly remember I travelled by train down to St Leonards-on-Sea to see them, and they took me to the very famous Jack in the Green Festival in Hastings one year, which was amazing. And I remember arriving on the train to St Leonards, where they lived, and looking out of the window of the train. And Tanith and John were both waiting on the train platform to meet me. And it looked like I was being met by the king and queen of Elfland. I mean, they just looked, they were so stylish and beautiful, and they, in their shades and all these masses of hair, they looked like kind of fairy rock stars. And, I looked out the window and thought, wow, these guys have come to meet me. That's so cool. And it's one of those sights that's just really impressed upon my memory forever. And, they were always such wonderful, kind, funny, generous, interesting, totally original hosts, and very, very generous. And I've always enjoyed all the time I've spent with them. And I just feel really blessed and lucky to have had that opportunity to spend some time with a writer who I think, is I don't think she's ever really received the recognition that she should have, because, so I'm really delighted with what you're doing and how you're keeping the legend of Tanith alive and spreading it. I think it's just such a brilliant thing, because she really deserves that.